Hey guys, Joe here, back to the Word. In this video, giving you a book review of this work right here, Daily Doctrine by Kevin DeYoung, published by Crossway Books, a year-long devotional through systematic theology topics, 500 or so word essays on key questions and topics of systematic theology put into 5 readings per week, 52 weeks, 260 total readings. I just finished reading through this in 2025. This resource was released at the end of 2024. So I'm going to review it for you guys and share about this amazing resource from Kevin DeYoung and Crossway Books. All the major sections of this review are time-stamped, so you can hop ahead to the section that most interests you. I'm going to go through my normal sections of who is this for, who wrote it, what stands out, but also 2 cautions, sections of Kevin DeYoung's Daily Doctrine, then entries I loved and learned much from during this read-through that I did in 2025. Then I'm going to go through entries where I differed from Kevin DeYoung, obviously with me being a Baptist and him being Presbyterian, so I've highlighted those and we'll talk about them in this video. So with that, this is Back to the Word. Just as a reminder, my channel exists to equip and encourage you to read the Bible, good books like this one and others that I talk about on my channel, and have conversations that truly matter. So if you want that sort of content in your feed, please subscribe. It really does help. If you want more to see this video, give it a like or share it with someone you know. So let's hop into our normal review segments. First up, who is this work right here for specifically? This 5-day-a-week, year-long devotional focused on systematic theology, questions, and topics is for every Christian, and it's really written in a way that's approachable by every Christian. It is designed to make systematic theology clear and accessible for everyday Christians. Personally, this is for any Presbyterian or Reformed Christian and for theologically matured Christians from other denominations who know what they believe and would benefit from such a resource, and I'll further define that a little bit later in this video. Second, who wrote it is written by Kevin DeYoung. He is the senior pastor of Christ Covenant Church in Matthews, North Carolina, and is associate professor of systematic theology at RTS, Reformed Theological Seminary in Charlotte. He has written books for children, adults, and academics, and Kevin's work can be found at clearlyreformed.org. If you don't know about him, you should go check out some things from him. Really great theologian and pastor. Kevin and his wife, Tricia, have 9 children, is the last tidbit about him that you might not know. So, what stands out about this book specifically? So here's my list. This resource is beautifully printed. Great job, Crossway. Once again, some of the best in the business. Quality paper, great ribbon marker, cloth over board binding. They did an excellent job yet again. Also, I want to talk about that this resource can be used in a variety of different ways. And so that stands out because it's a varied use. So whether you use this as a year-long devotional like I did, or just a quick access systematic theology resource, it can be used both ways. This devotional walks through the most important theological topics over the course of a year in a manner that is accessible, concise, and clear. Kevin DeYoung's the best at doing that. You can go to the table of contents, you can go to the back and look at scripture types of things, go to the exact section that you are most interested in. So it's quick access or year-long devotional. Also, this resource is beautifully written. He calls it a baby Burkhoff or a tiny Turretin, and it lives up to that name. I also want to draw attention to something that stands out is that Kevin DeYoung's background and convictions do shine through. This resource is done by a Reformed confessional PCA Presbyterian pastor and professor who has pulled from and synthesized some of the best Reformed and Presbyterian theologians on these critical topics where relevant in this work specifically, and has given us great footnotes on them. So theologians like John Calvin, Francis Turretin, Charles Hodge, Francis Bannerman, William G.T. Shedd, Herman Bavinck, Louis Burkhoff, and more are all cited and heavily influential on what Kevin DeYoung has written. He also is well versed in all the Reformed standards and references them as needed and where they are most helpful throughout the work. That being said, the footnotes I already mentioned are very helpful. Sometimes he synthesizes something Turretin says, and then he'll go give you the numbers in Turretin's eclectic theology, and you can go read Turretin's exhaustive section on that exact topic if it piques your interest, and he does that throughout out for various theologians and topics. And so I'm so glad that he put those footnotes in there for those who want to do deeper study like myself. Also, I'm thankful this resource is denominationally and theologically conversation competent and fair. So Kevin knows what Presbyterians and Reformed heritage believes, or heritage theologians and Reformed theologians believe historically, and he falls theologically within those bounds and presents those positions clearly and with conviction. But he also has a great awareness of other views, and as long as those contrary views are within the bounds of Christian orthodoxy, so they're not heretical views, I feel that he preserved those views in this resource accurately and in brief, and talked about those relevant topics where they came up. So he talks about Baptist covenantalism, he talks about Baptist baptism or credo baptism versus paedo baptism, church governance types of things, congregationalism, Presbyterianism, Episcopalianism, even Roman Catholic papacy. And so he talks about different millennial views. And so I feel even when someone is reading through this resource and they differ from where Kevin DeYoung has landed on this certain thing, or where the Reformed faith lands on this certain topic, I feel most people reading this resource are going to read his presentation of those other counter views, and at least in a summary format, I'll go, yeah, that's about what I would say. I would say more, I might reference more verses, but that is the view I hold, or historically that other viewpoint has said and would articulate that in a similar manner. I want to get outside of just what stands out about this excellent resource, and do have two cautions if you're going to pick up this resource and work through it. Is one, I want to say a note about Bible intake. So you should plan some form of additional Bible intake to go along with this devotional if you plan to make this your devotional for a full year. I'm really glad I chose to read through this in 2025, but in addition to this, which has 500 or so word essays for every single day, 5 days a week, I was additionally reading scripture or another devotional that got me in scripture. You're not going to read a lot of scripture unless you're tracking down cross references and citation type of things from this resource if you just read this for your devotional throughout the year. So I'd encourage, if you're going to pick this up, also pick something up that's going to get you in the Bible a little bit more throughout the year to read alongside this year-long devotional. My second caution is that who I would recommend this actually to purchase and buy it. So as a Baptist, I really wish after reading this book right here that we had a Baptist version, because I know I can't recommend this to all of my church members. I would really love to do so and recommend it to every Baptist, but I can't. I would fully recommend this to Baptist pastors and mature Baptists and other denominational believers who know what they believe and why, who want to pick up and read this resource. But I must stand by my earlier statement that I said in who this is for, that this is for any Presbyterian or Reformed Christian, and for theologically mature Christians from other denominations who would benefit from such a resource. So if you're different on points of covenant theology, infant baptism, amillennialism, Sabbath keeping conversations, etc., know what you believe and then pick up this excellent resource. But it's not something that I'm just going to throw out to my people and say they should all get, because they're going to start coming to me with lots of questions in my Baptist congregation that DeYoung is not going to be covering those sorts of things, or what we confessionally would believe. So that's just a caution for you to think about as you read or would recommend this resource to others. So I put up there, I'm going to put up notes right there, sections of DeYoung's daily doctrine. He breaks it down into 8/9 sections. So there are the days right there. You have prolegomena, theology proper, anthropology, so the study of man, then you have covenant theology, then you have Christology, and then you also have the person of Christ and the work of Christ. So that's kind of the section that he talks about 8 topics, and that one gets divided in 2. And then you have soteriology, then ecclesiology, and eschatology. And so those are the sections of this excellent work right here, spaced throughout the year, and those 260 readings. I'm also going to put up a list right here of entries I loved and learned much from on this recent read through. So obviously, if you pick up this resource and read through it on your own, different entries may stand out to you. But these are the ones in 2025, as I was reading through, the entries that I was like, wow, I really learned much about that topic from reading this, or this really stood out and was a good presentation of that, and I would love to share that with others. These are the ones that made an imprint on me this time during my read read through. So I have there the questions of canon, which books belong in the Bible, the words for God, that was a really good devotional, the filioque clause, the order of the decrees, the newness of the new covenant, the law and the Christian, dispensationalism, the virgin birth, names and titles of Jesus, descent into hell, that was a good one, theories of the atonement, so he covers 10 theories of the atonement over 2 devotionals, that was a great entry. Also, limited atonement is talked about, Dort and definite atonement, both key topics I was interested in, effectual calling, irresistible grace, does James contradict Paul? That was a really helpful one that I did not see coming. Also, the 3 uses of the law, warning passages in Hebrews especially. Then you have Catholicity conversations, creeds and confessions. Then he has 2 devotionals on gifts of the Spirit and miraculous gifts. I really enjoyed reading about those. On day 223, he talks about how many times should I be baptized, and I actually was surprised that he talks about the agreement between Paedobaptists, who baptize infants, and Credo-Baptists, who believe they should only baptize believers, and he said both sides would agree that you should only be baptized once. They would just disagree on what a valid form of baptism is, and so I enjoyed his conversation on that day. He talks about church membership. That was a good one. Also, death and hell. That was really one that I was interested in that I didn't see coming. He talks about the words for both death and hell used throughout the Bible and teachings across the Bible on those ones and the words that are used. He summarizes them in that devotional. And then hell as divine punishment was a good one. And then also the millennial views detailed. He's very helpful. He covers the 4 main views and then actually says a lot of us are just frustrated with that topic and end up in a 5th view, which is pan-millennialism, that it'll all pan out in the end. But I enjoyed his treatment of the millennial kingdom. Here's also some entries where I differed from Kevin DeYoung. Since he is confessionally Presbyterian, I am confessionally Baptist. We have those differences. Here are some ones that as I was reading, I just flagged, was thankful for his treatment and articulation of Baptist positions on these things, but things that I knew as I teach and reference things that I differed from him on. So one of those would be day 109 on Baptist covenant theology. Obviously, I agree with this and what DeYoung says in this entry, but it differs from what he actually believes. So in that devotional, he presents the Baptist covenant theology view that I would hold to, and DeYoung does not. On day 219, he talks about the recipients of baptism. I've already mentioned that briefly in this video. So covenant children for DeYoung, and for me and Baptist confessionally, only those who give a credible profession of faith, who are believers and are baptized after they profess faith in Jesus Christ as believers. Then on day 220, you have mode of baptism. Obviously for me as a Baptist immersion, for DeYoung, different for the baptism of children. Then day 238, who governs the church? He talks about congregationalism, which is Baptist polity, and obviously that's different from DeYoung, which is Presbyterian, who focuses on elder rule. And then also days 257 really through 260 all deal with facets of the millennial kingdom and DeYoung's position of amillennialism, which I do not personally espouse to or defend or believe in, but he did a really good job of explaining it in those devotionals. So with that, those are just really great resource. I am so thankful to Crossway for sending this over to me to read and review and to share with you guys. Just want to say, excellent from Kevin DeYoung. You need to go check out his stuff online. Even as I'm highlighting in this video, even a segment where I differ from him as a Baptist and he's a Presbyterian, there is so much agreement between both of us, and I would just fully recommend, if this resource or some of the things I've talked about in this piqued your interest, you're a matured believer who knows what you believe and think this resource would be helpful for you, I would encourage you to pick it out and read it for a future year for your devotionals, or to use it on the shelf as a quick access resource. So with that, if you have more questions about this resource, put it in the comments. I'll try to answer it if I get the opportunity to do so. Until next time, continue to read, treasure, follow the word. God bless, and I'll see you guys soon.